Hello guys, William here for a new video. I haven't done any live coding since finishing React Native Sketch Elements. By the way, this starter kit has been downloaded, I think, 165 times. So thank you for that. I'm definitely grateful for the reception on this UI kit. And in the upcoming weeks, I'm definitely going to do more live coding. I have many projects that needs to be done. So I'm super excited for that. And I'm definitely going to live stream the interesting parts. And recently I upgraded all the UI kits on my website to Expo 26. And this is, since I'm using Expo, this is by far the biggest upgrade that Expo has released. So I really wanted to do a video about it. So I invite you to check out the Expo 26 release note on Medium. Expo XDK 27 has been released this morning, but it's not as big as an upgrade than Expo 26. So definitely check out the release note on Medium. And in this video, I would like to talk about the new limitations on the iOS client and how actually you might be able to turn these limitations to your advantage in your beta testing workflow. And I would like to talk about some changes in Expo, and especially the the Firebase image upload and like some other small things which have changed, and I had to make some upgrades in my code. And when upgrading to Expo 26, I also took advantage of upgrading the React navigation, and like to talk about that as well. One of the big change in this new version is also the React 16.3, which has new lifecycle methods and a new context API. Very, very interesting topics. So I would like to talk about that as well. Since the new Expo client has been released, you cannot scan a QR code anymore with iOS. When this news came up, that was a huge bummer because, so in my case, I built this small marketplace of React Native apps. And that was just very convenient that people could simply scan a QR code and load the app on their phone. And also, I used to love like going on expo.io and search for some keywords, and I could just play with these different apps and see what you could build with Expo. That's just very cool. This news came up as a huge bummer. But as often, there's this book title which I really love. Obstacle is the Way, from Ryan Holiday. And it turned out to be, so these new restrictions, of course, turned out to be somewhat new opportunities as well. What I ended up doing is I built a standalone app from my Expo project. I followed these instructions from the documentation. That was pretty straightforward to upload my app to iTunes Connects. Since this is a demo app, of course, I couldn't get it published on the App Store, but I got it accepted to TestFlight very quickly. So TestFlight review process seems to be not nearly as much difficult than publishing to the App Store, of course. So I had my app accepted to TestFlight, and so what I did is I built a small REST API integration where people can enter their first name, last name, email, and they will automatically receive an invitation to TestFlight. So I can just put my email. And so this turned out to be an opportunity because, so first of all, when people use the demo from TestFlight, so okay, it's a little bit more, but there are a couple of benefits. First of all, for the user, the benefit is that the app, so if they use the app from TestFlight, the app is much, much faster than running on, directly from the Expo client. I noticed dramatic performance improvements. And also, for instance, on my side, I can keep track of who's subscribing to the TestFlight, if, they installed it or not, and maybe are they converting as customers, and you can keep track of what's going on. So that's kind of really helpful. And so you see, I've built this small React component where you have this tab, iPhone, Android. So this little widget that I built is very useful for me in order for people to try my Expo project. And I'm thinking that it should probably be useful to other people. So I'm thinking to make this available to anyone. That's what I think I'm gonna be coding in the upcoming days. I think it should be interesting. Like, let me know what you think. Is that something like you could use? Also, yeah, just maybe let me know your thoughts on this whole like iOS limitations. I would be very interested to hear what are your thoughts on this. Part of the upgrade with Expo 26 is React navigation upgrade as well. So probably the Switch navigator was already existing in previous React navigation versions, but I discovered the Switch navigator in this, like while doing this upgrade. And I love the Switch navigator. What this navigator do is that it enables us to handle the login workflow, authentication workflow super elegantly. And before this navigator existed, that was extremely awkward to do with React navigation. So I was so happy to do this upgrade. It was really cool. I use the Switch navigator in all my UI kits now. I have this one, Fiber with Firebase, which has authentication workflow with Firebase, so you can log in, sign up, sign out, and so on. Before the Switch navigator, the way I was implementing this use case was super awkward. I think I can show you here. So my main navigator, I had two main navigators, which were stack navigator. So I had one which had like the welcome screen, login, sign up. So the sign up is made of 3 screens. And then, so I had all this logic with Firebase where basically I was listening to changes in authentication. So I have on hot state changed. So I would set the state of the main root component of the app. So is hot status reported and is the user authenticated? According to these variables, I was, setting up the right app navigator. There were so many things awkward about this approach. It worked, that's for sure, but that was really less than optimal because, first of all, I had to switch the main navigator at runtime, so that was a bit awkward. I was using a stack navigator for these screens, which was also like not really the semantic. Every time I sometimes wanted like to navigate from one page of the other, I had to do like these crazy resets. So for instance, I think I have this class navigation helper where I was doing resets sometimes to be able to navigate properly from one screen to the other. And simply because I was using a stack navigator where actually there was not really a stack navigator that I wanted. And so now that I'm using the Switch navigator, I have only one root navigator, so I'm not switching at runtime between like a private and a public one. I have this loading component screen which will listen to changes in authentication. What it will do is that it will redirect either like to the login welcome screen or to the home navigator. You see here basically in the loading component, I'm just rendering the splash screen loading and I'm waiting for the hot state changed to respond, and according to the result, I'm redirecting to home or welcome. Here I'm just doing some query to get the user information and like use feeds. And if I sign out, this method is called, it will redirect to welcome, navigate to welcome automatically. And this class basically had disappeared because now I don't need to do crazy resets and stuff like that. So super elegant. There's many examples on how to implement an authentication workflow with this navigator. Yeah, I'm really, really happy about this new navigator. Really cool. I hope that you're using it if you're implementing an authentication workflow with React Native and React Navigation. Next up, I have some comments on the Expo 26 upgrade. First of all, as mentioned in the release note, the OpenGL component is much faster in Expo 26. I built this more like filter component using the So Expo, OpenGL component, and this great library GL React, I did notice a substantial performance improvement with Expo 26. So if you're using OpenGL in your Expo project, I absolutely recommend that you upgrade. Another change that I know that a lot of people were waiting for is the apparition of the blob support in Expo 26 via the latest version of React Native. What it means, I know a lot of people are using Firebase for their Expo project. Before, we couldn't directly upload images to Firebase. So for instance, the way I used to do it is that I had this cloud function, which was quite complex. So this is 2 files that I used to upload pictures. So you had to build this cloud function, and if you were using the free tier of Firebase, that was extremely slow. So the image upload would be like so slow. Sometimes it would time out, and that was just really bad. So you had to pay like maybe $25 to get it running. And now since Expo 26 is out, you can just use the blob support from React Native and upload directly to Firebase storage. I know that a lot of people were waiting for this. This is, so this used to be the solution, like these 2 crazy files, and you had like kind of to have this extra cloud function, so this deployment workflow, and probably you had also to pay for it because with the free tier was too slow. And now this is just this small code snippet. So that's really cool. I know that we were a lot of people waiting for this. A couple of other minor things. I used to have this action sheet here, which is implemented with a React Native modal. And you see here, if I click add to reminder, you have this alert popping out. And when upgrading to Expo 26, I realized that the alert would appear behind the modal. And the way basically now we have to use a modal directly from Expo. So there is this thread on the forum. So I had basically to migrate from the modal component from React Native to the one from Expo, and now the alert work great. Another small thing which I noticed is, I'm using safe area view obviously from React Native to the iPhone X support. So I used to actually use a combination of the 2. So for instance, this screen is using safe area view component from React Native. If I click here on the action sheet, you see here also it's using safe area view, but from the component from React Navigation. So React Navigation has also a safe area view component. And the reason here I'm using the one from React Native, from React Navigation is because safe area view from React Native didn't work on modals. But since I upgraded to Expo 26, actually the one from React Navigation stopped working with modals. Or is it because also I upgraded to the modal from Expo? So here you see in this particular screen, I'm using the one from React Native. And then in some other places, I had to migrate the safe area view component from React Native to the one to React Navigation, because I noticed, and I think this is because of the async rendering, I noticed that there were now a flickering, really small flickering happening with safe area view from React Native. Sometimes user experience would be a little bit not optimal because of this flickering, and I noticed that this flickering doesn't happen with the component from React Navigation. So it's a bit strange, but I had to make a couple of changes there. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm still investigating why this is happening. Probably the one, hopefully, from React Native will be updated soon. And I haven't looked at the implementation from React Navigation. I should definitely take a look to see a bit like how it's done and what's going on there. Another thing which I had to upgrade is, so box shadow on transparent background now doesn't work really anymore. So you see, for instance, you have like this tab bar and with this small shadow, and I think the tab bar used to be transparent. And what happens now, since I upgraded, that the shadow would go to the text. instead of the box. So in this particular case, for instance, I have to add background whites explicitly. If not, the shadow goes to the icon and text instead of the box. Not sure what's going on there. A big change that is part of the Expo 26 upgrade is the upgrade to React 16.3. This is a big one. 2 big changes in this new version, which I'm really excited about. So the first one are the new lifecycle methods, which are really cool. They do might require some heavy migration on your current code base. It's definitely a new way to think about, the lifecycle of your components. And you might depend on libraries which haven't upgraded to these new lifecycle methods. And for some edge cases, it might create some undeterministic behaviors. That has been my experience with it, but definitely very cool new API. And the second one is a new context API from React. I think the implication from this new API are really big. So these 3 methods are now deprecated, and there is a new method called available, which is called get derived state from props, and I think get snapshot before update is not available yet. So for instance, I have this little component here which I upgraded to a simple checkbox. I think you can see it here. And it used to be implementing using a component will mount to, read the property checked from ingredient and then set the default state instead. So I simply migrated by setting the default state in the attribute, and then I'm using get derived state from props. So every time the props change, I can set the default state. What is really cool in the blog article from the React blog is that they really have a list of use cases below and how you can migrate for each use case to the new API. As far as I've read, they've really covered all possible use cases. Very well done. It definitely, so I migrated a fairly substantial code base with this new method. It definitely requires a new way to think about your component and the lifecycle. But I definitely recommend that you check out this blog entry and that you get into this new API. I did notice some undeterministic behavior because, if you're using dependencies which didn't upgrade to this new lifecycle method and are making the wrong assumptions, it might create some issues. It only happened for some super edge cases, so there was not too much of a trouble. You might not hit this issue at all. But yeah, very cool. I also definitely recommend you to do this upgrade. Another big change in React 16.3 is the new context API. This new context API is awesome, and I think everyone also likes it because I found so many YouTube videos and so many great Medium articles on this topic. Yeah, it seems that everyone is loving it. I'm loving it. Definitely check out the React article on the topic from the React blog. And in all these tutorials, they are always using the theme use case as kind of the hello world for this new context API. I'm using the theme pattern in React native sketch elements. So you see, for instance, I have this navigation bar, which the background color is dynamically configured according to the theme color. The way I'm doing it right now is that I'm using Mobex. I'm using a global store where this value is configured. And I have a second also global store for the music player where, I have this music player component and values which are horizontal to all my components. I uploaded recently a video about state management in React Native, and I think, one point I was making in the video is that if you're using a state management library like Mobex or Redux, you should really know why you are using it. Now with this update to React, it's definitely I really stand behind this thought because, in my case, I'm using Mobex, and I was using Mobex for 2 reasons. The first one is the ability to be able to inject global stores in my components, like the theme or the music player. And the second one was I thought that MobX provided a nice utility for, if your data source is implementing an observer pattern, like, in Firebase with real-time updates, you just have a convenient way to do the, subscribe, unsubscribe. So subscribe when mounting the component, unsubscribe when unmounting. And now that you can implement the provider global store pattern with vanilla React, I might not need to use MobX anymore. Probably these new APIs from React are going to spawn a new generation of data management tool. So probably I'm better off right now sticking with vanilla React for state management. And really, if I need to switch to a new tool, like really understand why I need to switch to a new library. Maybe you're using Redux, maybe you're using MobX. Probably maybe you have some use cases which are completely different than mine, and that really makes sense for you to use these libraries. But really, if I were to give an advice, like make sure you know why you are using them, because I think that things are gonna move very quickly in this topic of data management. So that's really my advice, like know why you're using a data management library in React. So that's it, guys. That was my notes from Upgraded to Expo 26. I hope you found them useful. I'm definitely maybe gonna do some more in-depth video on migrating to the new data, new lifecycle methods in React, and maybe some other topics. So definitely stay tuned. There should be more live coding coming up on the channel. And thank you so much for subscribing, by the way. 1,000 subscribers. I'm so grateful for it. Looking forward to read your thoughts also on all these topics I talked about in the video. So be well, guys, and talk to you soon.